Hello, in this video we'll talk about video editing. What is video editing? Is if you have all your footage, you shot everything that you planned, yes, and you arrange the shots one after the other with the aid of different type of cuts, and you tell the story through audiovisual means, yes. So this is the structure of your video. It has to have continuity, it has to have rhythm, emotion, the sense of something that is chronologically happening. Yes, so we're talking about different types of cuts. If it's a direct cut, then you don't have any part of the action that is missing. Everything is fluent, yes, in real time. We don't skip moments of the action. Sometimes we have parts of the action that are too long or not interesting, so we simply present some things one after the other. So we cut through ellipses. We can have fades, fade in, fade out, fade from one image to the other to create effects, to I don't know, get the illusion that something is happening, like in a flashback, or like it's a transition of time, a longer period of time is gone. And we can also use dissolves for this, or crossfades. Yes, and we can have jump cuts. We'll discuss all these practically in our software. To edit, we need a software, obviously, and the most common ones nowadays are a lot of softwares that offer also demo versions and free trial versions, or you can buy them for a small amount of sum. It's okay to invest in it if you want to produce more often videos. It's good to have your software to buy it. Yes. And we can edit in Adobe Premiere Pro. It's really, really good and easy, user-friendly. You can edit in Avid, but it's a little bit difficult. It's for professional movies. You can edit in Final Cut Pro, in DaVinci Resolve, in Blender. There are a lot of softwares, and I think it's good for you to understand that if you know the basics of editing, and if you know a little bit of theory that stays behind the editing process, and you understand and you manage to deal in one software, you will find it very easy to switch to another one. So what I'm going to do now is to open my Premiere Pro and start work. Start explain to you so that you can have your edit of your own footage. Okay, you'll see my screen now, right? And I've just opened Adobe Premiere Pro. Of course, I've worked at some of other projects in the last period of time, 2 months ago, and so on. I could open a recent project, or I could start a new one. I could simply open here if it's not on the list, if it's an older one, right? But I will start now a new project. So simply press on New Project, and it will ask me where to save it. So it's good to understand that all your footage, everything that you import, video, audio, pictures, logos, everything needs to be in one folder. If you, by mistake, delete a file, Adobe Premiere won't find it, obviously, yes, and it will ask you, where is this file? It's missing. So it's good to be organized, yes. In video editing, in sound work, it's all the time best to have everything at a single place. So let's call this project Connect Editing, and I will choose a place for it. I like this folder. Maybe let's see. Okay, here in videos, Laura. Let's create a new one. Name it how you want it to name it. Yes, and then select folder. And everything that I import now and work with, it's going to be in this folder. And then you don't need to worry about these things anymore at this moment. As I said, I'm going to explain to you the basic steps, not going too complicated into this. So this is the interface of Adobe Premiere Pro. Of course, now we didn't import anything yet, so it's everything is empty. You can see here there are some panels, some windows. Here it's the source window, and we're gonna work also with the effect controls window. Here, it's going to be the place where you're going to see what you're editing right now. Here is the project panel and the media browser where we're going to import our footage. And here is the timeline. Of course, you also have here this toolbox with all sorts of tools that we'll discuss, a couple of them. And here on the right, you'll have the master output for your audio so that you can always see if it's too loud, if it's too soft, yes, the level of your audio. So let's import our footage. There are several ways to do that. One is File, Import. The other one is the shortcut Control I. The other one is simply drag and drop. If I know where my footage is, I could simply open Windows Explorer and just simply drag and drop here into my project. Or I can go to Media Browser and look up for, I don't know, let's say I'm looking here for something and I would like to import, I don't know, a certain file. And let's see, maybe I have here something and just simply drag and drop. Okay, let's just do it with the Control I. And I'm going to import, obviously, our videos. I want to show you how I create the videos. So let's see this video, for instance. Okay, so it's now here. Yes, you can find it here. Everything that we're going to import, as I said, video, audio, music, pictures, it's going to be here in our project panel. What I can do now is to simply drag and drop, and it will create an automatic sequence so that I can edit, but keeping the settings of this video. So you see, if I drag and drop it, I'm here, right? Okay, I can undo that, and I can show you a different way of doing this if you want to work by professional settings, or if you want to have a video at a certain quality, a certain resolution. You will simply go here to File, New Sequence, and you can choose from the templates that Adobe Premiere Pro offers you that certain preset that you want to have. Okay, so there are a lot of them, and I won't discuss each and every one of them. It's also depending on which equipment, which camera you use. But let's say we could have this one, yes, and keeping in mind what frame rate we have. Yes, remember the frame rate, the numbers of frames per second. I could choose this one. Okay, so this one, AVC HD and DNX HD, are sort of a standard, and you can see here, yes, we have the resolution of yes, of course, HD, right? We have the aspect ratio, we know the frame rate and the audio settings, right? It's okay to have 48,000 hertz. So this could be a good option. I can also see here what settings I have. And here select the number of tracks, maybe if I want to add more or less video tracks, but basically you shouldn't bother with this. You should choose simply the preset that you want and then simply click OK. And you'll see here I have my sequence, and here, oops, my timeline appeared. Yes, it's not black anymore. It's not grayed out anymore, actually. Okay, so this is my sequence that contains all the tracks that came now with a preset. If I would do another sequence, let's say I right click here and make new sequence from clip, you'll see I have less tracks, but this isn't a problem for you because you can always right click and add tracks or delete tracks. Yes, and have more or less video tracks. You can add multiple tracks at the same time. Yes, select if you want to do them standard or 5.1, but basically it's okay like this, and you can simply delete them. Let's say I don't need so many tracks. You can say delete tracks and maybe delete all empty tracks, yes, or all empty video tracks, and look, they gone away. Let's return to this sequence, yes, and I will simply drag and drop from here my video that I want to work on. And because there are different settings between the sequence and this video, it will ask me, the script doesn't match the sequence settings. What do you want to do? Do you want to keep the sequence settings? Or do you want to keep existing settings? Well, if I created this super good quality sequence, of course, I would like to keep them, right? Unless I would have done the other way around and make new sequence from clip. But here I want to keep this as the settings. And you see the image is really, really small compared to the other sequence, yes, where it covers the entire picture. So obviously I couldn't keep this this video like this, but it's a good thing that it's like this, because I can see that the quality isn't the best one. So what I should need to do is to zoom. How would I do that? I told you here on the left, there's the source and effects video panel. So you can simply click on the video. Unless you click it, it's grayed out, right? So you need to click on it, and here in the tab of effect controls, sorry, you have different parameters. All these things are very similar to Adobe After Effects that we'll discuss in our next tutorials. But it's, I think it's really, really important for you to know how to work also on these things, because they're really indispensable in the Adobe Premiere Pro. I mean, sometimes you really do a video just here in Premiere Pro and don't use After Effects. So it's the same interface, the same procedure, but I think it's better for you to know how to handle these things also here in Premiere Pro. So I clicked and I would like to zoom it, right? So I go to scale and simply zoom it until it covers my entire screen. So you see almost 300% bigger, yes, to cover the entire picture. The other parameters I won't discuss now. Yes, we'll go to them later. So one thing is to drag and drop the footage here. Another thing is to, let's say I import a different video. Yes, with Control I select one of the videos that I prepared for you. Let's say the close-up. Okay, just randomly picked. Okay, so it appeared again here. Maybe I don't want to drag and drop the entire clip. Maybe I'll undo that. Maybe I want to select a specific part. So I'll double click this file and oops, it appeared here, right? In the video, the source video. This is the source video and this is the video with my edits. So if I scroll down the timeline, you'll see what I have here. If I'm scrolling here, the timeline, I can see I can look for something in my footage. So let's say I want to select this part until here. Let's yes, I can play, but now I don't want to hear the sound, so it's a little bit disturbing. So let's say I want to have this part. I can do in and out, in, look, in and out. Or I can simply click I and O on my keyboard. And I can drag and drop my selection here in the timeline, wherever I want to do it. Yes, whenever I want to add it. And it's here. This means I have both video and audio, right? On my video track and on my audio track. Maybe I don't want to have both of them. Maybe I want to have only the video. Look, and I selected here just the video and it lacks the audio file. Maybe I want to have only the audio, so drag audio only. And you see I have the audio file. I couldn't even put it on the video track, obviously. So it's just here, right? Okay, so there are situations when I want to add only the video or only the audio. Another thing to do this, let's say if I want to add this to a certain position, I could have these buttons here, insert and overwrite. I mean, the name is pretty intuitive what it means. If I am here with my cursor, yes, and I click, I have the selection in and out, and I have the overwrite button, I click it, it will overwrite my, let's zoom in. I'll talk all the shortcuts a little bit later. It will zoom in. So undo, right? Sorry. It will overwrite. But if I press on insert, well, it won't overwrite anything for me. It simply put the video more to the right. So it's good to know how. Let's see like this. So imagine you have this one here, and I simply put insert. So it's the same duration compared to overwrite, where it really actually completely overwritten my smaller clip. But I wanted to tell you this thing, yes, that you can always double click and it will appear here, and you have your selection and play and select the things that you want to add to your footage, so that you don't always drag and drop all the entire clips here. What I want to explain to you next is the toolbar section. So we edit by using various tools. The most common one and the first one is the selection tool with the shortcut V. So if you have this clicked, you can simply click on them, move them around. Yes, I don't know, simply click on them and drag and drop them here in the timeline. But if you go to, let's say, if you go here to, so it's the arrow key, right? But if you go here to the beginning, oh, you see the arrow transformed itself into a red bracket. If I drag this bracket, I will cut things out from the beginning of the shot, right? I could drag and drop them wherever I want, or in the other direction, right? So keep in mind that when you want to shorten or a shot or make it longer, you need to have this bracket. So at the end of a shot, let's see the other selections that I made. Again, when I'm here, it will transform itself into a bracket, and then I can make them longer, 1 frame or 10 frames or 2 seconds. The next shortcut that I want to explain to you is the razor tool. Yes, it's like a razor that cuts. Maybe I want to do some cut points here. You see, wherever I press on it, I click on it, it will cut my video. So now I basically have more cut points, yes, in my footage. If I want to select them, of course, I have to go again to V and select those separate clips and do whatever I want with them. I can also delete them. Yes, simply click on it and delete. This one I don't like, delete. But now I have gaps in my timeline. So either I fill them in with other shots, or I have to put all these things together, but it's really, really tedious. So I won't do that because I'm not, time is money, you know. So I'm simply gonna right click on this little gap and ripple delete. Right click on this gap and ripple delete, and it will bring all this together again. So until now, we covered up the selection tool and the razor tool. I want to show you another cool tool that you use, cool tool, the ripple delete edit. So if I have this tool, let's look a little bit at more than. Yes, so here, just be closer than the more than one character. Okay, so let's say I don't like this edit, right? I have the ripple delete tool. So you see now it's a yellow bracket. I can simply drag here. I can see in my video file what it's happening. And let's say the video will start here. So you see what just happened. Let's say I don't like it either. So let's say I want to cut it until here. So everything will disappear. Just be closer than the, okay. It's obviously a bad cutting example, but I want to explain you the tool. So compared to this one, where the bracket is red and I lose things, but the gap stays, the ripple delete tool permits me to avoid the gap. So I can choose whatever I want and it will simply drag everything back, glue it together. There's another tool that I want to explain. You see here, if you press on these little arrows, there are tools that have multiple variations, like in Photoshop. So here, for instance, you can have 2 tools, and here you can have 3. I want to show you the rolling edit tool. Let's say you don't like this cutting point, but it's simply a little bit of, needs a little bit to adjustment, and you simply want to look at this type of arrow. Now it's a double red arrow, and you can simply move along and choose where to cut. So it will simply move the cutting point more to the left or more to the right, according to, without leaving a gap on the timeline and maintaining the clip. I mean, you won't lose information, you simply adjust the edit point. Maybe you didn't like that precise moment. Let's switch to another. Let's say I want to edit this close-up that I have. Yes, and that, let's say I don't, where the character is presented, I don't like it that it starts here, right? So I'll use this tool, the N rolling edit tool, and simply, I don't want to see this guy, I want to see her directly. Yes, so it will make the first shot longer and I'll see her directly. So use this tool when you want to do that. Other tools I don't want to explain to you right now because they're more complicated, and this is basically what you need to do a proper cut. The next thing that I want to show you is you have this in your workspace, in your window, you have more workspaces. So you can choose according to what you're currently doing in your workflow. You can choose the editing workspace, or let's switch, for instance, to the effects workspace. Yes, and sorry. And you see that it's a little bit different. Let's switch to the audio workspace, and you see a mixer popped out, and you can work on your audio track and insert plugins and stuff like that. Maybe you're currently at the graphics, yes, in the graphics space, and a panel came here up on the right, and you can add some effects and templates, plugins, or personalize your footage. But let's go back to editing. I can do that simply by clicking also here, right? So toggling between those here. Here in my project panel, I can look at them like this. Yes, so I can switch the view type, and maybe I have more shots here, and I need to find a certain one. So it's good to see them like this, but sometimes you don't want to do that. If you do like this, you move this toolbar, you can see all the information from every single shot that you imported. Also the sequence. So you can see the duration, you can see the in point in your timeline. You can see all sorts of things, the resolution, the audio information, everything is here, right on track. You can always import new things. You can always save a copy of your project. It's good to do that. And you can always create new elements. What can we create? A new project, of course, a new sequence. Maybe we want to work on 2 or more sequences in the same project, and to compare, to switch. We have different versions. We have, I don't know, maybe one sequence contains all the footage in sync with the audio. Maybe the next sequence will contain the first draft of editing, and the third sequence is another version, slight modification. So it's good to have these these possibilities. It's better to do this instead of having a lot of projects. So work with more sequences. I can also have various types of new elements. For instance, I can have a title. As I said, I will explain these things to you also in Adobe After Effects, but it's good to know how to make them here. So I click on Legacy Title, and it will have my settings from the sequence now. So my sequence was in 25 frames per second, this resolution. So I simply click OK. I can rename it. I can say, let's say title 1 or whatever you want to call it. And this window will appear, right? Okay, I can choose if I want to see the current frame where I want to put my title on, or if I don't want to do that. Let's say I want to do, because I want to check if my title will be able to be visible, and simply click T, type tool, and let's say title 1. Of course, now you can see a thing. I can move to a different shot, and here on the right, if I select my title, I can choose a font, right? I can, with my arrow down, I can look at fonts and select the one that I like. I can have here a preview of them. Let's say I like this one. I can choose if it's okay. Some of them won't let me choose between regular or light, or well, let's choose a common one so that I can show you, so you can have more variations of the same font. Let's say we want to do it narrow, bold, italic. Font size, yes, I can change this. I can also add some tracking if I want to make a longer pause between the letters. I can choose the color. Maybe I don't like this white. I want to do it pink. Yes. I can add texture, shadows, play with this. It's really, really creative. And I can also choose where to put it. Where to put it is here, using again my little arrow and simply dragging the title where I want to add it. Or if I want to place it right in the middle of the frame, I can do it in 2 versions. Right click, position, horizontal center, and vertical center. Or I can also choose the lower third, like a subtitle. Or if I want to do it in a more simpler way, simply click, and here you have these little buttons. Again, it will arrange it in the middle of the frame. You can also choose from one of these presets here. Sorry. Yes, maybe you like one of them that came that come with shadows and things like that. You can always personalize them and choose a different color or a different gradient and things like that. So this is how you'll add little text and little information on your video. It's the most simple version. Of course, you can do more complex things. Let's say I have this one, and simply here, like in Word, choose how to align them. There's also the possibility to have text like in the credits of the movie, but I don't think that you'll need them now, but I'll show it to you maybe so that you know that you can do that. So you simply can select from still, which we have now, to roll. Yes, and it will start off screen, on screen, and will come from below and go upwards. Yes, like in the title credits of the movie. Okay. You can add here little markers, and maybe, I don't know, remember that here you want to cut something or you want to change something. Yes, and you can always go to the markers, clear markers or things like that. Okay, what I want to show you next is how to do little effects on your video. So let's say you have this wonderful close-up, yes, and you click on it. And you have here project, media browser, libraries, info, and effects. Here is where you can add a bunch of effects. Again, you can do them also in After Effects, but sometimes you're in the hurry and you really don't want to complicate yourself to toggle between platforms and softwares, although it's simple to switch in the Adobe bundle, right, between the softwares, but you want to do it here, right, quickly. So before I show you effects that affect just this shot, I want to show you how to do transitions. So here at video transitions, you have a lot of effects. Let's say we choose dissolve and we simply drag and drop it here on the transition point between the shots. And if we press play more closely, okay, just compared to the direct cut, or we can have dip to black, you know, chest to black and then pops out a little bit. I can always personalize them. I can make them longer, I can make them shorter, 1 frame short, right? Dip to white and a lot of other cool dissolves. I can also choose from other video transitions, which are, I don't know if you use them now in 2021 so often, like they used to be used more closely. Yeah, you can play with them. There are a lot of transitions that work, that are okay. Chest or let's say the wipe, the band wipe, for instance, chest, but they're a little bit too much, I think. So try not to overuse them, try not to play with them. They're really basic. I mean, in After Effects, you can create more closely. Okay, don't like the zoom. You can always add these effects also on text. So let's go back to our project panel. And here we have our title that we created, and we simply put it upwards. Why did I put it on top? If I would have put it here, it would have replaced my image, right? So like in Photoshop, Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects work with layers. So layers, well, actually in Adobe Premiere, there aren't layers, there are tracks, but everything that is on top is the first element that is visible. So if I edit this one here, this will be visible. If I would switch and put this shot, you see, I wouldn't see my video anymore because it's on top. So keep in mind this when you're editing, and obviously the titles will be on the video, on the image. So add them on the second track. Adobe Premiere Pro will create automatically new tracks for you. Let's say if you want to do it on the third video track, or create a new one. Yeah, so it will automatically do it for you in audio as well. So let's put it here, and let's say I don't want it to pop right away. Let's add a cool effect on the title. Let's say I wanted to dissolve it, the beginning, it more closely, it comes like this, right? And in the end, I said this split, for instance, it's a cool option, and it was split. Yeah, so you can play around whatever you want. So all these effects work on video, on titles, on images, whatever you add in your project. If you want to do it in sound, let's say I have this cutting point that I actually don't like because it's too rough, too sudden. I have the audio transitions, and here just cross fades and 3 types of fades. Here I can use the constant power and make a smooth transition between my voice and the music that's coming in. More closely, chest, here it's again too harsh. So again, add this crossfade, her chest up, and it's a little bit cooler, right? In the beginning, I could do an exponential fade, and I could choose a dissolve, like a dip to black, right? A long dip to black, Yeah, so when I play it, I hit this video, we'll talk about cinematic language. And really, really softly, and in the sound doesn't start so sudden. There are here, as a parenthesis, I want to show you here in the timeline, there are some tools and some buttons that you need to be aware of. First, this one. Yes, so if I select my tracks, I'll be able to switch between, to use my shortcuts. This means if I want to go here right to the first frame of my title, I can click the right arrow, the down arrow, yes, on my keyboard. And it will go here to my cut point, okay, to my cut elements. If I don't have these clicked and just the first track, if I click my down arrow, it will go simply here, where the cut points of my first video track are. If I click this one and press down arrow, it will go here, right? So the tracks I'm working on should be selected. If I don't want to see a track, I can hide it. So look, if I switch this, it exists, it's still on the timeline, but it's not visible anymore, because sometimes I want to work, sometimes I have many tracks here, one on the other, and I don't know, I want to see how everything fits, and maybe I don't want to see all of them, right? I choose which one to see, and keep in mind it's always the one on top that I see the first. It's the same here in, well, mostly the same also in audio. I can press the mute track, and look, if I now press play on spacebar or here, I won't hear anything. So the audio is still there, but it's muted. Or if I have different sound elements, and it's I couldn't play them all simultaneously because I wouldn't understand anything. So I can solo, let's say this one, right? That's up. And I will hear only this one, or I would solo only this one. Top is a phrase. Yes. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're working on it. It's good to test yourself while you're in the editing process, but when you're finished with the movie, don't forget to toggle them on. Don't forget to unmute them if you want to have them in the final version of your script, because Premiere will obviously export your video without them, so as it is in the selection. Okay, so we've covered the effects. We also have your video effects with, you can do basic transformations and adjustments to your image, like in Photoshop or like in Adobe After Effects. You can look here, you can choose from levels, you can choose from color correction, let's say brightness and contrast. So how do we add these effects on our clips? We simply drag and drop them, like we used to do with the video transitions and the audio transitions. So simply drag and drop them on the image. And if you want to work with them, click on the clip that you want to edit and go again to the effects control. As you can see, it appeared here, compared to the other one, who doesn't have a brightness and contrast effects on it because I didn't add it on it, right? So here, it's brightness and contrast, and I could simply, well, now I'm exaggerating so that you can see, I want to have this image look like this. Yes, so it's here. If I change my mind, then I can undo it. I can bypass the effect, or I can work on softer parameters and softer settings. If I want to also do extract, I can add another type of effect on the same video, and it will appear under the first one. So extract with or without, changing here the parameters and playing around. You can basically do this type of processing on every single clip. Yes, play with these. There are things that you really can use all the time. For instance, crop. Maybe you want to crop this, and look, it's here again, and left, I don't want to see this entirely. I want to see just like this. Yes, I'm really playing around now. Maybe you want to do a horizontal clip. This will happen right away, but let's undo the crop so that we can see, right? So with the horizontal flip and a lot of other cool effects that I really recommend you to try it out. In audio, we can also have effects. So my recommendation again is to work your audio in Adobe Audition or in another dedicated audio software. But sometimes you're really in a hurry and you don't need to do really complicated stuff. You just have a music on your video and maybe a voiceover. So it doesn't need too much processing and too much sound work. You don't have sound design, you don't have Foley, things like that. So you can do it quickly here in Premiere. And there are some effects that you can choose. Maybe you want to add a filter, an EQ, right, to make the voice sound not so boomy, or maybe not so harsh on the high frequencies. I don't know. Maybe you want to add a reverb, right, to a dry voiceover. And simply it's the same principle. So you can add the effect that you desire on the track, and that it will appear here. So I have to drag it, I have to click on it, and it will appear here in audio, right? So I have the tab with video, all the things that I added to my video, and the last one, it's in a chronological order, the audio effect that I want to add it, and I can choose here and work with it. I won't explain now every single plugin here, but so that you can understand how you should be doing this. So I've added effects on my video, on my clips. I've added some titles. Let's look a little bit at this. I'll delete it. Let's keep in mind this this part of video where I have this title. Let's say the title comes in with this cross dissolve. I'll mute this so that we can watch it. Yeah, so the title comes like this, and it goes away like this. Maybe, you know, maybe I don't want to have these effects anymore. I just want it to pop out. But I don't want it to pop out just like this because it's a little bit boring, and I want to do something more interesting, more dynamic. I'll click on the title, and here I have again these parameters where I can change the position, change the scale, change the rotation of it, and the opacity to make it, I don't know, a little less visible, and all sorts of things. But everything that I click on will do it on the entire clip. Maybe I don't want this. Maybe I want a scale to be smaller at the beginning and to increase in size. So this is why I use the keyframes. Keyframes are essential and vital in Adobe Premiere Pro, in Audition, and especially in After Effects that we'll cover up later. So let's say my title file is currently at a scale of 87. I would like to have it smaller at the beginning and bigger later. So I will press this little button here, the stopwatch, and you can see here, if I zoom in, a little keyframe appeared. I'll go here simply wherever I want, a little bit further away, and make it, I can type right in 100. So if I play on these little portion between the two keyframes, I can see it appeared, right? Maybe I don't like it so much, it's not so visible. I can switch to the keyframes by clicking these arrows, and let's say I want to modify the first arrow and make it a little bit smaller so that I can really see the effect. And maybe I want to move, not both of them, sorry, one of them a little bit further away, and then I click again, and look, yes, it's visible. So why do we need keyframes? To make movements smoothly, to change parameters across the time, across the video. We can have parameters that last for a couple of frames, a couple of seconds, elements that move around, elements that change their position, their scale. We can add keyframes to all of our effects, Yes, I mean, we can have this one that has, let's say, a video effect and a brightness and contrast. And if I click on it, I can also put keyframes on the brightness. So I can start with one sort of brightness, yes, add a keyframe. Let's say I start with this sort of brightness, and as the video goes along, it will reach its normal brightness. So as I said, use keyframes if you want to make changes across your video, and you can add them to every single effect that you're using. Let's say my video is finished now. I want to export it. One thing that you need to do before you export is to let Premiere know what do you want to export. Let's say I want to export my entire video, and you see I pressed some I pressed some shortcuts. Sorry, I was with my mind at the keyframes. So I pressed some shortcuts here on my keyboard. Minus and plus zooms in my timeline, and minus makes it smaller. I can also drag these toolbars here to have the same thing, same effect. I can make this track bigger or the video track bigger if I want to see the frames in it, and I want to see, oh, okay, here what was this one, here was the other one. I can simply make them standard. Yes, how you want to have them in your timeline. Maybe if you work on multiple layers, you don't need to see them so big unless you have 3 monitors. And I can switch to cutting points by using the down arrow and the up arrow. If I want to go to the end of my very last element on my timeline, I will press the end key, and we'll go here to my cuts that I left here aside. Yes, that I can ripple delete and put them together, right? As we learned. But so end and home to have the start. If I would export the video like this, I wouldn't have a file. Why? Because I didn't select my timeline. What do I want to export from my timeline? So let's say I press here an I from in and an out from here, or yes, the shortcuts on your timeline. And if I would have the timeline selected like this, with my muted track, unmuted track, remember, yes, visible tracks. If I export it like this, I will have a black video. Then Premiere would export just this selection. But let's say this isn't my entire video. So I need to select everything from the very single frame, which is, by the way, this one, unless I ripple delete. Yes, and I have this one, I. And let's say my very last cutting point is this one. So I'll zoom in with my plus key, and I put an O from out here. So this is my video, and this is the selection that I need to do. Then I will go to File and Export, Media. And I have the possibility to choose between a lot of formats and presets. Maybe I want to match my sequence settings. Remember, I created a sequence that was really, really good. Yes, and I have here the source settings, parameters, and the output. I can check if it's the same resolution, the same frame rate, the same audio settings. But let's say I won't do this. I would choose a format that it's standard here in Premiere. Yes, I can choose between a GIF, between AVI, picture if I want to have a picture, just the audio if I want to export audio. But the standard nowadays is the preset H264. And you can choose here at preset to match the source. Sometimes it's not good if I have a lower quality video. Remember, I have a zoom video, so it's not the best quality. We had to zoom it to cover the entire frame. Maybe I want to export it dedicated for Facebook or for other platforms, right? HD, standard definition, Twitter, high quality mobile device. Let's choose for now match source. Yes. And I can rename my output file and choose in which folder I want to do it. I want to export it. Let's say I want to export it here. And let's say test and simply hit enter. We can change here elements, but I wouldn't recommend to do it now because it's really complicated and it's a dedicated thing to discuss about these things. The estimated file size would be 200 megabytes. Yes, so if you have a longer video and you export it at really good quality, yes, then you'll have a bigger size. So you need to have space on your hard drive. Here, I can always check if it's okay, the aspect ratio is okay. If I don't have, I don't know, a setting that is wrong, and then simply click export at the end. So we've covered pretty much all the basics that you need to know to edit your video. So you learned how to import it. You learned how to create sequences by changing the parameters and the settings. You learned how to create new elements. You learned how to add more tracks or delete more tracks to make them visible or mute them in the timeline. You learned to add effects on videos and audio, and you learn how to export. So now you're ready to work on sound and to add some graphics in Adobe After Effects.